Good afternoon. I am Brother Zachary Stevens Walter. I am the chaplain for pastoral care here at the community church. I welcome you on behalf of our ministry team, our staff, and all our lay leaders. It's good to be together, both in person and online. Community church is a multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational congregation with a vision and commitment to build a world grounded in equity and inclusion. With me today is Jerry Brown, our director of music, our talented choir, Reverend Jude Geiger, our minister for community engagement, and Darnell White, whom we just heard, our musician in residence. Community church is in transition. We have sold our church building and are in the process of finding another in this neighborhood. We are guests here at Church of the Incarnation in the meantime, for which we are grateful, even if this beautiful space isn't perfectly reflective of our theology. Children are always welcome during worship. Feel free to move around the space or to move back and forth to join programming happening upstairs in the loft. The sound of babies crying or children fidgeting is a beautiful part of being in community. Masks are optional, but encouraged. We ask that everyone be respectful of each other's decisions and need for personal space. Today's service is a bit shorter. We will finish by 2:15, and our service is called The Blue Season. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, Return Again, number 1011 in your teal book. Be seated. Come into the circle of caring. Come into this community of gentleness, of justice, of love. Come and you shall be refreshed. Let the healing power of this people penetrate you, let loving kindness and joy pass through you, and hope infuse you. In this human circle, caring is a calling, and all of us are called. So come into the circle. I invite us all to join with our choir singing our chalice lighting, Rise Up, O Flame, number 362.
We light this candle, the flame of our heritage. May it ignite hope in our lives, in our community, and in the world. I invite all of us to join in our unison affirmation as printed in the order of service. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides and always magnifies humanity and peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community. Unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown, throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts.
We are gathered on the unceded land of the Lenape peoples. We acknowledge the Lenape community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. You're invited now to greet your neighbor. I encourage you to use a COVID-safe sign of welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I invite us all to return to our seats. In a moment, we'll listen to a chime and enter into a time of silence, knowing with all the wiggles and sneezes and coughs of the world, it's not about the perfection of silence, but the intention. Join with me now. Spirit of hope, God of many names and one transforming and abundant love, at the close of one week and the beginning of a new, remind us to pause, to remember all the faces around us, the faces that we cherish and who cherish us in return. For the family that may be far from, or in distance, or in connection, may we find moments that bring freshness into withered connections, or closure where there is no way forward. Teach us to love wherever we can, especially when it's hard, even ourselves. In this holiday season of cheer and expectation, some of us are celebrating the birth of light in the world, or hope in our hearts. We're grateful for a long-sought rest at the end of a long and challenging year. Others are mourning those who are gone, or mourning the dream of a family they never knew. May we hold each of these in care, holding them in our hearts, holding them in our coffee conversations, holding them in our phone calls and Facebook posts. For we are the ones who create the world around us, whether it be for love or despair. We have some part in its creation. Remind us to pause before we act, then act with kindness, with generosity of spirit, with patience, and a day will surely come where we know a world so full of these blessings. Amen, and blessed be.
Thank you, choir. Our reading is entitled The Waiting Time by Reverend Megan Lloyd Joyner. In the Christian calendar, Advent is a time of waiting and preparation for the coming of the Christ child. The story from first century Palestine tells us that with the birth of Jesus comes hope, love, the undoing of the status quo, a new reign of peace on earth. At this time of year, we are invited, as weary people have done since the beginning of time, to kindle tiny lights and whisper secret music, to cradle our hopes like newborn children, to wonder what love looks like in practice, to await a new era with patience and preparation. This year, we might not feel like waiting is the best move. We may cry out in lament for lives and rights taken without account, joining our voices with all who cry for justice and peace. This year, sitting quietly in the midst of chaos might feel close to impossible. Finding the magic in this season of waiting can be difficult for many of us, not just this year, but any year. For how does one sit quietly when life can be so unkind? What about the times when we wait for word of family in conflict zones, or of an injured friend, or a dreaded diagnosis? Times when we wait for illness to set in, or for a child who does not arrive. In times like these, we might find ourselves wishing that time would pass more quickly to get us to the other side of a nightmare. How do we live in that kind of waiting time? Advent challenges us not just to wait, but to wait actively. To do the work of preparing hearts and till the soil that awaits seeds of hope and love. Advent encourages us to be present in each moment of waiting. The moment of magic, the time we have been waiting for, is now. Not some future date, not the end of the Advent calendar, not the hour that the days begin to lengthen again, or that long-awaited morning of presents. The mystery, the excitement, the beauty of this season are all found in the waiting time. And so we wait, allowing ourselves to be fully present to all that is happening in each moment. When we do, we join our lives and our breath and our hearts with all who are waiting. Waiting for justice, waiting for peace, waiting for a world reborn.
When I was growing up, we used to wonder if we'd have a white Christmas. I didn't mean to us, will it snow in December? Only will it snow on Christmas Day? Of late, we seem to perennially be wondering when winter will start. This year, I think it was December 4th, last Sunday, before I realized that October was over. Even this morning, we got up early and we're finally taking down our autumnal decorations, and it turned into this whole fiasco. Our cat got out into the front yard, And we didn't know for a while until I saw my dog looking out the window in interest at something. And we then realized our black cat got out. And it's funny on this because when my husband went out to get the cat, Toby, he was hissing. He was 3 times his normal height at something. We had not taken down the Halloween black cat decorations that were in the lawn, and we realized at this point, we've had him since he was like 3 months. He's probably never seen an actual real cat since he was his mom, right? And so for the next 2 hours, he is so worked up over these cats. Our poor 70-pound dog was living in terror for 2 hours until we catnapped the cat up. It was Halloween for us until this morning at 4 a.m. One recent Thanksgiving a few years ago, I remember dodging a late-waking bee for about 2 blocks with my bag swinging like an idiot. I'm allergic to them, so it's a serious thing for me. Somehow I managed not to get stung, but the bee had a tenacity that matched the spirit of early autumn's lingering warmth. I was talking with Dylan, our communications coordinator, right before the service today, and I realized today is the 3rd day this year that I've worn a jacket. It's just been so warm. Sweaters have been enough. The seasons seem a bit mixed up, and neither I nor that bee that happens to follow me several Thanksgivings now, as it happens, have a good sense of what time of year it is, or what time of year it's supposed to be. The long-lasting warmth has made for a really odd season for me. Beach-worthy weekends in late September, trees that stay green well into November, and the last of the yellow leaves seem to only fall in the last day or two. I looked outside my window on Wednesday, and the trees across the street were still covered in red leaves in December. It all has a kind of cumulative effect of letting the winter holidays sneak up on me unprepared. Although the drugstores, of course, had Christmas decorations for sale 2 weeks before Halloween, as is the normal course of things in this world. It makes me wonder, maybe this is not true for you, maybe it is true for you, when did we stop being kids? It wasn't when we turned 18, I'm sure, that. How old were you when you first realized you let slip something that your inner child would never or could never have let slip? What were you doing when trembling anticipation first became sedate? Was it when your first kid left home? Or when a sibling passed away? Or when you realized that you were older than your parents were when they had you and you don't have kids? Or maybe you figured the secret to eternal youth for your inner kid. If so, please bottle it up and bring it around during coffee hour every week. We could use it. Are we okay with the change in timber in our quaking souls these times of year? Or do we try not to look at it aside from the corners of our vision? To a certain degree, we grow older and we need to mature. Life's experiences grant us insight, if we're lucky, wisdom into the borders of things, borders like the dual edge of anticipation and obsession. We need the more sober view of the passing of years in order to measure out and balance all the difficulties, joys, and complexity of life as adults. For many of us, this season becomes the blue season. And I know many of us are coming from different traditions. My own household is Unitarian, Universalist, Christian, and pagan. And some are coming from a Jewish background or others. And so I think about this time of year of all the holidays, and I'm going to try to touch on them a little bit in each way. For many of us, this becomes the blue season, while the rest of the world seems to be full of joy. But I wonder what else comes with putting our inner kid to bed. Does a certain part of us go to sleep as well? Do we lose our sense of wonder? Do we close ourselves a bit too much to everyday magic and awe? Do our views and perceptions become too jaded, maybe? Too practical? Too starchily useful? I think it's the fastest way to let bone-weary exhaustion set in. Exhaustion in the existential sense. Tiredness with the passing of the seasons and holidays and cycles, rather than rejuvenation from the rebirth of times and holidays. In traditional earth-based spirituality, we will soon be crossing through Yule, the winter solstice. It's a holiday that directly faces this perennial existential challenge. It's a time of reflection, of new beginnings. My printer played some jokes on me this morning, and Brother Zachary as well, so excuse me as I go. Matching the symbolic birth of the sun as our daylight hours only become longer and longer with each passing day following Yule. It's a holiday that asks us to consider what we hope to rebirth in our lives. It asks us to rebirth our spirit in the face of the cold, long night. I'd like to share with you a poem a friend of mine has written for Yule. I find it speaks really well to the challenges this season poses for many in the face of all the merry and cheer. It's entitled The Bare Bones of Winter, and it's written by Elizabeth Lodwick. She's a poet, but she's also a professional artist as well. Out in the darkest night, the longest dark, appear the whitest stars against a black sky, joining the moon in seasonal ritual of shadow casting on the untouched snow. Magically they manifest, silhouettes of skeletons that shiver with the wind's chill. To the maple I want to offer my warm coat, and to the sycamore, the linden, the oak. Come, follow me, my door opens to the bare bones of winter, but unforeseen enters the evergreen, clothed in angelic light, greeting reverence with a promise of rebirth. Those trees I was talking about that were holding on to their leaves this year tenaciously, and it seems to be every year for the last 5 or 6 years, are now just bare bones outside my home windows and along our walks. If we could but give them our coats to keep warm against the chill. Which among us this year relate more to the bare trees than the charitable, jolly old traveler with arms full of generosity? Have we held on long enough to our last vestiges of yellow and orange, or is the silhouette an all too familiar feeling come December? The poem gives me a new sense of the evergreen, of the Christmas tree for sure. To be fair, it's less new than a better pointing back to a very ancient meaning. It reminds us there's another spirit we can clothe ourselves with. There's a way to feel full beneath the wheeling of the seasons, a lit path to rediscover awe and reverence. It shines hidden beneath the packages, the obligations, the commercials, the packed Home Depots and Targets, and Barnes and Nobles on Christmas Eve. We make a practice of bedecking the greens and the halls. We see them around us here. This church just bedecked these halls with festive and color and light to make certain we remember to find a place for that wonder in our everyday spaces. To craft rooms where we can once more fa la la, lest we forever ho hum. We do this in community because every year some of us will be able to sing that fa la la, while some others would only be able to mutter softly that ho hum. And it changes from year to year for each of us, maybe. It's an increasing challenge for me each year. Several years back, my parents and I agreed to stop the crush of present giving this time of year. Maybe 10 years now. There was a bunch of reasons we did this, but the most obvious was one year when we finally hit the point of spending way too much. The gift-giving truce, as we like to call it, has been an awesome thing for me. My husband and I finally had that talk after 6 years of also doing the way too much. I don't spend December fretting over the craze of consumerism anymore. And for my family, it's finally simply about being together. Something the holiday never really meant growing up for me, at least not that I ever saw, or maybe I just didn't realize it as a kid. Lighting our trees, warming our hearth fires, decking our halls could be a sign that gift-giving is coming. It can also be the gift itself, the lit pathway to the secret of a spirit reborn. A metaphor that maybe our leaves can lean green this winter. And what a glorious gala celebration that could be for our inner kids who might have been long at slumber. Life is about the attentive pauses. Not so much about the breaks or the rest or the relief. Those are important too, but not it. Life is about the moments of gratitude, the times of awareness. The world continues spinning, the dancers continue dancing, the cat is still climbing in your face for attention, but we're there to appreciate it, though we know not where that place is in space. Some of us will call it mindfulness, others may call it gratitude. The less spiritually inclined might simply call it paying attention. The poet's still point, the lack of motion within every motion. Allegorically speaking, the story of the birth of Jesus is about this too. The star shines bright in the clear sky. The kings get off their thrones, the wise men gather gifts to bear. The shepherds leave behind their flocks for a short time. Something great has just occurred. Where did it occur, though? In some great, exciting place? Were there alarms or sirens or flashing party lights? None of that. In the hidden recesses of a dirty manger, among the animals of the field, in the most everyday of places, the birth of hope was to be found. All that is held within the ordinary, the mundane. Only our perception cracks open its meaning. Our appreciation makes all the difference. One bit of advice I give people as we're planning for the winter holidays and holy days relates to this, especially when the holidays have become the blue season for you. We can really get lost in all the work we do leading up to a Christmas party or a family gathering around lighting the menorah, all the logistical bits, the party, the caterers, the decorations, the animal costumes, the instrumentalists, the ceremony, the guest list, and so on. As with all things in life, we can let them drive us crazy. However, they can also be an intentional way of reminding us that for a short span of time, we should be fully present. We commit all this time, energy, and focus to the planning of a very short event. I give the same advice to all the couples that I counsel before I officiate their weddings. We go through a lot of work for a very short event. It's a way of reminding us that the joy, that celebration is worthy of spending the time on it. What happens in the small moment of that candle being lit while singing Silent Night, is that important? Personally, I sometimes imagine all that effort is somehow condensed into the moment. I think about the people that have done these same rites for generations and generations, all coming together in that moment. The still point in the turning world. And it's those moments between the moments, to brazenly quote T.S. Eliot now, that we can return for solace, for energy, for inspiration. The pausing is not solely about rest, but about renewal. Anyone who has woken up in the morning after a full night's sleep with no will to go to work or school knows the difference between rest and renewal. The still point is about coming back to our place of renewal, stopping so we can start once more with fresh purpose and meaning. In the holiday season, we stop. We celebrate the return of light and the turning of the world. We pause to share time with our families, our friends, or just find some quiet time away from the frenetic New York minute. And we begin again. We begin again as our full selves, or as close to our full selves as we can muster. The spiritual work of this season isn't about resolutions on how to get control of our lives once more after a month of celebratory abandon, although that might be needed as well. The religious call asks us to begin again, doing the work of striving to make the world a more safe, a more just, a more sane place for the migrant and the manger, for those oppressed, and for those seeking a miracle for even more than 8 days and nights. If we do that work, the rest will follow. The rest will follow because our priorities will be set. The need for the next thing, the distraction, the party, whatever that thing is that we feel we're lacking, which in reality is not essential. That will sift lower in our values when we set the spiritual work of the seasons as our essential. The rest will follow when we accept that the distraction or the addiction we felt helpless before, or the petty grievances we keep at our forefront are not essential to who we are. They are what keeps us from ourselves, not what actually defines us. Mystically speaking, the moment in the manger, the moment we realize there's enough lamp oil to illuminate all we ever could dream of, that the days will get longer, that the world will continue to spin. The moment we pause to appreciate the holy in our lives, the moment we pause to recognize the powerless and the meek for their own worth, the moment we stop in awareness of the breath of life, that moment informs all the rest. The moment of stillness gives the dance meaning and makes it possible. Life is not a series of disconnected moments strung together with only the meaning we lend it. Life is encountered in the flow between stillness and movement, the renewals of the spirit rather than the resting of the body. Our hymn that we're going to sing in a moment following this homily is a classic Christian reinterpretation of the Yuletime spiritual message in the bleak midwinter. It actually happened to be written by a Unitarian minister. The earth is as hard as iron and water is like stone. Even though the version we'll sing was recrafted probably in the 1990s, the lyrics still evoke a sense of barrenness. The bleak world outside reflects the inner world of our spirit, where in the Christian tradition, the Savior is born as but a homeless stranger, bringing the hope of the world in the most everyday of places. The setting of wood slats and strewn hay. I invite us all to take a moment in our minds to deck those bare walls with garlands gay and singing. Can we take that message and that image with us into the new year to come? Can we bespeckle the corners of every dry spirit we come into contact with, especially if it's our own? Can we let our neighbor help us? Can we offer ourselves that wondrous gift before the trembling bare bones of winter? There's many of us who feel the draw, coming together in a shared spirit, singing for feeling, for joy, for camaraderie, will sound just as wonderful as we let our hearts be large for one another. Allow yourselves now to be present throughout the cadence of this song. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing hymn number 241, In the Bleak Midwinter.
Life at Community Church is busy. Whether we are online or in person, it is our hope that wherever you are and in whatever way you are comfortable, engaging in the mission and ministry of this church, we have provided opportunities for you. Our programming booklet is now available on our website. If you have questions about how to get engaged with what's happening at the community church, it's a great place to start. Look for it on our homepage. From Roots to Leaves, Reverend Jude's next program will be rejoining this coming Sunday, next Sunday, December 18th at 11 a.m. in Zoom room 0011. Be sure to RSVP if you intend to come to Reverend Jude. We are a 7-day church. We have programs running every day of the week, and you can find more information in your program bulletin and on our website. Our ushers are going to pass a plate now for our collection. If you are new here, please let the plate go by you with no pressure to give. We are glad for your presence. All gifts offered are accepted in gratitude.
And as a word of closing, as a reminder to all, we'll be returning to our normal 2 o'clock service start next week. We're guests in the Church of Incarnation, and they have a special Lessons and Carols service after this service, so we'll be ending a little shorter than we usually do this week. I invite us all to join in our extinguishing of the chalice, spoken in unison as printed in the order of service. Knowing how quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken, let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another the watchword of our lives together, so our light goes out everywhere into the world. For those who seek God, may God be with us. For those who embrace life, may life return our affections. For those who seek a right path, may a way be found, and the courage to take it, move by move. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen.